All right, there's the Dow right now, down 254 points. We're so focused on the Senate recounts, gubernatorial recounts, losing sight of the fact that right now Democrats are swelling their gains in the House of Representatives beyond just the 26 or 27 thought, and maybe it could be as many as 30 or better than that. In Pennsylvania, we saw 3 Republican seats go in exchange for Democrats, so that state had a disproportionate pickup of swaps in sentiment on the part of voters. The former Democratic governor of the Keystone State joins us right now, Ed Rendell. Governor, very good to have you.
Good afternoon, Neil. Listening to your Florida recount made me think of 2000 when I was Democratic chair.
Remember that?
It's like Yogi Berra said. Like Yogi Berra said, it's deja vu all over again.
What do you think of that? I mean, and how long this could potentially drag on? It's not a presidential contest, but it is setting the stage for people wondering, well, does Florida have its act together? My argument, Governor, on that is that maybe there's nothing nefarious going on here outside of the fact that that is still a 50-50 state. And the closer contests get, and you talk about recounts, be they in Georgia, be they right now in Mississippi, where they're going to have to count again, or do this all over again because no one got over 50% of the vote, Arizona, where they're neck and neck. This is what happens in close elections. What do you think?
It does, and recounts are going to occur because they're there to help decide close elections. But there's no excuse for any state not to have, by 24 hours after the polls close at the outset, to have all the votes counted. Then they can have a recount. But in Arizona, there were 450,000 votes not counted, and I think in Florida, 50 or 60,000 votes not counted. That's unacceptable, and they've got to tighten up their procedures.
Now, I don't know all the details. You probably know better than I, and you were there in the middle of the 2000 mess, that they were taking safeguards to make sure whatever ballots they would come up with in future years, both parties would agree to them. So both parties agreed to what seems to be such a confusing ballot. It was almost like a telephone book in a couple of these counties. Broward and Palm Beach come to mind. How did both parties write off on that, especially for, a state that was urged, make it simple, make it clear?
It's stunning to me because actually in 2000, the Democratic Party had agreed with that ballot that was so confusing in Broward and in Palm Beach. They had. So it's stunning to me that it happens. But I don't think we should have political people sign off on ballots. We should have people who are experts on elections look at a ballot and say, well, that's easy to understand. Now, that's a little bit confusing, or that might be distracting. But we've got to find a way to do it better. Because what happens now is, regardless of what happens, whoever wins, the other side is going to think there's some sort of chicanery.
Governor, already we're getting noise from candidates within the Democratic Party already feeling their oats and maybe testing the presidential waters. Among them, and just yesterday I was chatting with California Congressman Eric Swalwell, entertaining just that. I want you to listen to this. There's a report in Politico and now elsewhere that you're seriously considering a run for president, are you?
Absolutely. I'm looking at it, and I'm going to talk with my family over the holiday. But I do think, Neil, that one lesson I've taken away from the midterm results, when you look at 25 people elected to help win the House and their 40s or under, is that the country is embracing new ideas, new energy, and new leadership.
All right. So he's testing the waters. So obvious question for you, Governor, are you?
Well, I think I should run with Joe Biden and we'd be the AARP ticket. But really,
it is amazing.
Seriously.
We could have a couple of dozen Democrats, prominent Democrats, not just sort of also rans, seriously joining that field, right?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that.
No.
What's wrong with it is if candidates cater to their base just because they're thinking of running for president. I was very disappointed when Democrats, almost all of them except for Amy Klobuchar, was the only so-called presidential candidate who didn't do this, all said we should abolish ICE. Well, of course we shouldn't abolish ICE. We need to reform ICE. We need to change it. But we need an agency like ICE to do the important work that it does. And there was a stampede of presidential candidates pledging their fealty to abolishing ICE. That's ridiculous. And if Congressman Swalwell gets in the race, I hope he stays the way he is and decides things based on their merits, not on what's politically, the best route to go.
Well, you and the vice president, by definition, are a unique breed then, because I'm talking about your age, I'm talking about just your more moderate position. Your party has taken a sharp left. Does that worry you?
It does, although some of the people who are considered to be in the left wing of our party, I think, are sensible and get painted unfairly. Like I heard Elizabeth Warren at a private dinner say, if the Democrats take back the House, we better show the country that we should legislate, and not just investigate. And that's absolutely right. If all we do with control of the House is investigate every little nuance in the Trump administration, then we will have blown a big opportunity to show the country that we can give them a good infrastructure bill, a good comprehensive immigration reform bill. We can fix the ACA. Those are the things we should be doing. Sure, there are certain things that need to be investigated, but let the Mueller probe do most of that work, and let's get back to doing things to meet the challenges the country faces.
All right, Governor Rendell, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Neil.